Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Money Down Pod. That's my guy, Sean White. You can follow him on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Super hyped up as the Falcons have a massive game tonight in a hurricane weather game against the shitty-ass Panthers. That's right, the shitty-ass Panthers. Even though I think I'm going to eat my words because I have a very bad feeling about tonight. It just is one of those games that doesn't feel good until we get our secondary back, man. I can't feel confident in this team, but it's a huge game for us. And for Panthers fans, you guys really should hope you lose, to be fully honest with you. But we'll see what happens there. So rocking the jersey. Sean, there's so much going on in the world of football. So we're going to talk NFL and college because both worlds of football right now are just wild, man. The college football season is the season that really everybody's been wanting for so long, which is no more like obvious stuff. It's not Clemson and Alabama. It's different. I mean, Georgia is pretty dominant, but other than that, it's wide open. So we're gonna have a lot of college football talk. The Auburn job is very interesting. What's going to happen with Hugh Freeze? We'll talk that, but let's start with the NFL here because some things happened in the NFL last week, which, everybody's been talking about it. So hopefully we can bring a different perspective to this than you guys already heard, because I mean, it's literally the only thing that's been talked about other than Josh Allen's elbow in the NFL right now. And that's what's going on with the Colts. Sean, the only sport, and listeners out there, if you guys think I'm wrong, let me know. But I mean, I thought about this heavily. The only sport that you see this happen in is the NHL. I follow the NHL very heavily. It's very common for the NHL to fire a coach and bring in someone from outside the organization in the middle of the season. That happens all the time in the NHL. It does not happen anywhere else. And it sure as hell does not happen in the NFL. The NFL is the one sport that it doesn't happen because of how complex an NFL week is. The practices, the schedules, the meetings, the playbooks. It's very hard to bring in somebody outside of the organization middle of the season. Yet the Colts are doing that. The Colts are literally doing that. You said right when they brought in Sam Ehlinger, who I have said since day one, he's not even a backup in this league. He is so bad. He is not. I've said it from the beginning. He is a terrible, terrible quarterback. Has nothing to do against him, the person. He's had a lot of tough times with things that have happened in his family, and I feel for him. But him, the player, he's just not very good. And you said that this is a bigger thing immediately, and the Colts are tanking. Well, this move right here would just go even more to your theory of the Colts are doing everything they can to tank. It is by far one of the most perplexing moves in NFL history for what they're doing. I can't believe it, and I think everybody should be mad about it, from the coaching hires. And this isn't even, to me, man, this isn't even a white or black thing. Like, yes, if you're a black coach, you should be mad. But if you're a white coach, you should be mad. If you're anybody that has actual credibility to be a coach, you should be mad about this. It is one of the most mind-blowing Jim Irsay moves in the NFL history. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a strange move, to say the least. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. They pulled him from an ESPN booth. He's coached high school football and had a losing record
Yeah.
as a high school coach. I mean, it's very strange to see. And I get liking Jeff Saturday as a person and everything, but man, he has no credentials to do this whatsoever.
No.
And I know a lot of people are trying to make it a white or black thing. This isn't it right now. The Rooney Rule doesn't have to be followed in the season. And honestly, if you were a black coach, why would you want this job right now anyway?
Yeah.
You'd want to have it at the end of the year. What it does do is flow down the mud on the experience that you already had on the staff, and really basically says the staff's getting fired at the end. Because you did have Gus Bradley, who, take it from me, he's not a great head coach at all. He's not even a good defense coordinator, in my opinion. I'll flame Gus Bradley nonstop. But he does have head coaching experience. He knows how to run. He knows how to run the day-to-day operations. You also had John Fox there as an advisor. He's been a head coach at several places. And Bubba Ventrone has actually gotten like buzz as a head coach, as a special teams guy. I mean, you don't want to at least give him a shot to come in and kind of show what he has to the league. That's usually what you do in these situations. When instead they bring in Jeff Saturday, which I mean, great player, but no clue how good of a coach he's going to be. Now they have Parks Frazier calling plays as well. And I mean, maybe the dude's a savant or something, but at 30 and he's never called plays before, it's going to be a
30.
real weird experience there. I'm just on board with the whole they're tanking thing. That's just my only optic of it. And that Ursay is kind of getting his right hand guy in Saturday into the locker room to really see what the locker room's about, to kind of help Ursay get a grip on players. Because I don't know if Ballard's really all that open with Jim Ursay about stuff like that. And speaking of Ballard, it's kind of weird he's staying on with this whole situation. Like Ursay's promising that the job is still his and everything, but does he deserve to keep his
Dude,
job?
did you see him at the press conference?
Uh-huh.
He looked so like he looked like he didn't want to be there at all. That's why when I texted you saying I think he might quit, why would he is literally having all of his power stripped from him? Everything.
Yeah, you can't tell me that even if he's doing the scouting for a quarterback, if you're keeping on Chris Ballard and you are tanking for one, you can't tell me that Ursay hadn't already made up his mind on who he's tanking for and that he's going to want whoever it is. You can't tell me that Ballard's going to have full input on that. I think the days of him being in full control of the franchise are over, in my opinion, and I don't know why he'd want to stay for that.
Exactly.
In reality, he built a not that talented team. Everyone fawns over all these all pros and Pro Bowl players. They're in the wrong spots. I've been saying this for 2 years. They have a great D tackle, which is important, but it's rush in that really gets paid. They have a great guard and their offensive line was good, but their tackles have just been destroyed this year. And you can't pay a guard $20 million, no matter what a Hall of Fame level player he is. Their best corner's in the slot. I mean, and their best player on defense is a middle linebacker. It's a badly built team, in my opinion, and that falls on Chris Ballard, which I've been saying for 2 years now, highly overrated GM, in my opinion. But he's been put in a terrible spot here because none of this decision making is going to come down to him anymore. It's all about Jim Irsay now. He's making all the decisions for this, and I believe that Saturday's his right hand man, just going to give him info on the locker room, and Irsay's probably going to start making personnel decisions. That's how I feel about it. It's a tank job, and I'd be really worried if I'm a Colts fan because this division gives us such dysfunction. For 10 years, the Jags had Gus Bradley Caldwell, the Coughlin mess. Then Balky kind of snaked his way in there. Then you had Houston with Easterby. I mean, the preacher was running things, and Bill O'Brien trading away players for half their value. And now the Colts, Irsay's like, hold my beer. We're going to do it one better. It's our time to be dysfunctional. If you're a Titans fan, you have to love stuff like this. But honestly, if I'm a Colts fan, I'm really nervous about how this is going. Saturday gave a nice speech today, but I mean, I just don't trust the X's and O's part. And how, if you're a Colts player, do you buy into this guy who hasn't even been with you this whole time? I don't know how you buy into this guy right here.
Yeah, look, Saturday's going to say all the right things. The dude knows how to talk, man. He's a stand-up class guy. A couple things here. First of all, I can totally understand Irsay being like, okay, I don't want to do this normal shit when I fire. I don't want to bring in Gus Bradley. I don't want to do John Fox. This is I don't want to do. I can totally see that. All right, so you know what? Promote Reggie Wayne, who's on the staff.
Yeah.
He's on the staff, man. That's outside of the box thinking. You know what? Reggie Wayne's a legend. He's on the staff. Let's do something different and promote him. Or like you said, the special teams guy. And this is the thing where I'm perplexed about. I don't know how much Jim Irsay is going to pay Saturday for this, but it's got to be a lot because what Saturday is basically doing, and shoot, maybe Saturday feels indebted to Irsay. Maybe they're just so damn close that Saturday is willing to be the sacrificial lamb because what's going to happen here is it's going to be really bad. And Saturday's going to look like an idiot. And Saturday's going to get talked shit about. He's going to get all those people that like him on ESPN. They're going to have to do their job, and they're going to have to criticize him because this team's going nowhere. So it's going to get really, really ugly. So Saturday is basically putting his reputation out there and his chances to maybe be a coach down the road on the line just to help out his good friend Irsay. Like, you better be making a lot of money to do that. Unless maybe Irsay said, hey, I don't care how bad it goes. I'll still have you as the coach. Like, we'll make sure that you're the coach next year. It's a deal. I don't care if it's really ugly, whatever. Maybe that's what happened. Who knows with Irsay? They're so close. Maybe that is the secret thing. But I just don't understand it from Saturday's point of view, man. Like, why would you want to, as your first ever job, come in from the streets and take on this team? It's going to get really ugly, man. And Saturday's reputation is going to be on the line. And he's basically just saying, I'll be the sacrificial lamb for you so I can give you what's going on. It's that I don't get it at all from Saturday's point of view.
Yeah, unless he's been guaranteed the job or he's getting paid a lot, this is a lot to do for a good friend in the organization. So, do you see the reports that Jim Irsay was just calling him during the game?
Yeah.
What's wrong with our protections? Like, come on, man. What's happening here with Indianapolis? That's just funny to me. But
Irsay's
again,
lost it, man. He's lost it.
can you imagine if they do hire him at the end of the year, just
Oh,
straight up do the 2 Rooney Rule interviews and just hire him immediately?
it's going to be like what would happen if the Texans hired McDaniel. I mean, McCown. It's going to be like that.
It's kind of worse, though.
Yeah, worse.
At least McCown, like, I know Saturday spent a lot of time being a center and everything. At least McCown, like, was kind of like a co-offensive coordinator QB room guy. At least if you had to draw out schemes for both of them, I feel like McCown could actually come up with a scheme, like a game plan each week. I don't know if Jeff Saturday's even coming up with a game plan at all with this. I think he's just a rah-rah dude. It's kind of it's an unprecedented situation. And I want to hear from Colts fans in the comments after this. How are you feeling about this? Because I know it's got to be kind of stressful and frustrating dealing with this type of stuff. But I'll tell you what, if there's a chance that Jeff Saturday can get a win, it's going to be this weekend against the Raiders because, I mean, that team is in shambles right now. Yeah. I watched them play the Jags, 17-point lead on us, couldn't stop Devontae Adams, made a few adjustments here and there, slowed him down some. They also just didn't throw to him that much. Derek Carr is off in the second half, and the Jags 2-116 now in games where they've trailed by 17 points. That was a great win by the Jags, but an even bigger collapse by the Raiders. You've been on this for a while, ever since the McDaniel hiring. How do you feel about this now, especially with Renfro and Waller both going on IR? What's going on with the Raiders, and do you think McDaniel's in trouble this year?
I think he's done. I think the team doesn't like him. I think it's going to be a one and done. And I said it. There's no reason why they should hire this guy. This guy is not a head coach. Dude, we just know. Sometimes you can tell guys are great offensive coordinators, which he is, and they're terrible head coaches. He does not know how to lead men. Not only does he not know how to lead men, man, but I think he's actually done something. Like, Derek Carr looks bad. I think he's done something to make Derek Carr worse than what he was. Derek Carr towards the end of last year was playing great football. He looks terrible. No disrespect to your Jags, man. You cannot blow a 17-point lead to Jacksonville right now.
2-116 now. We were 1-1-116.
That is terrible, man. That is really, really bad. And you're starting to hear comments. Derek Carr after the game, he said, the people that just now got here this year, we need to talk to them about that. We play 2 halves of football, because this nonsense of only 1 half of football doesn't work. He's pretty much saying Josh McDaniels, like Devontae Adams said a couple things. I think the team is done with him. I think that they're going to have to fire him at the end of the season. This is going to go so bad moving forward too. The question becomes this now, Sean. Do they end up taking a quarterback? Because I think that they're going, and I know we're looking ahead here, I think that they're going to be so bad that they might be in position to take a quarterback at the end of the year. And if I'm a Raiders fan, I would be low-key hoping that they kind of start over here with the quarterback and a new coach and everything. I think Carr is he's just average, man. He's not going to get it done for you. And if he is, you got to have somebody in that coaching room that can really take him over the top. McDaniels is not it. Patriots fans are very happy right now because in 1 year, they're going to get Bill Belichick's going to get his guy back. He's going to be crawling back to daddy in New England there very, very quickly. I called it from the beginning. It gets worse and worse every week. Mark Davis cannot be happy. And it's kind of karma, man. Listen, nobody was saying they should hire Rich Bisaccia, but they kind of did him dirty, man. He led this team to the playoffs. They got 10 wins, and they didn't even give him a chance. They just immediately threw him to the side. The team loved him. The team respected him. McDaniels came in and nobody respects him. You could just tell the locker room does not respect him. I know that their defense isn't that good, but they have way too much talent for this type of stuff to be happening. I think it's one and done. And the big question now becomes, do they start to really go for a quarterback and restart the process?
Yeah, the offense being an issue is what's strange to me, especially since they kind of go half by half. They have enough players to be good, and they were good last year. So is it a Derek Carr problem or is it a McDaniels scheme issue? A little bit of me does want to say McDaniels did kind of make Mac Jones pretty good last year. So I don't know what's going on with that game plan where him and Derek are butting heads, but Derek Carr's got to play better as well. And I think we're getting to an interesting dynamic here. What you're saying is true. If they are high up enough to get a quarterback, do they take that quarterback and get rid of Carr and keep McDaniel? Do they get rid of them both? What do they do here? That's something I'm looking at. That's also a Tom Brady destination that I think is being floated out there that I would float that. That's one too. I also want to tie it into this because we were going to talk about the Calvin Ridley trade for a second.
Yeah.
I understood the trade from our point of view because if you're looking ahead to free agency and trades next year, we saw a lot of wide receiver movement this last offseason. I did a deep dive this last week and was going to put it up, but obviously, Kayvon, you got sick last week, so we couldn't record. So I did a deep dive. The free agents available, wide receiver wise, next year, they're bad. They're not good. It's like a bunch of Byron Pringles and players like that. So then I was thinking, what wide receivers might come available via trade like it did last year? I went through each division. There's more teams needing wide receivers than getting rid of them. And the ones coming up for new deals are like Justin Jefferson is going to get paid. Like he's going to get paid with the Vikings. T. Higgins, even though I don't know if they're really going to afford him in 2 years, he'll at least play this next year out no matter what with the Bengals. And then you get like DJ Moore, who's been on the block floated a little bit. Now this is kind of interesting because if they get rid of Derek Carr, do you think Devontae stays there?
That's the good
That's
question.
the one. That's the one I wanted to float the most because everyone else seems pretty lockstep. They're either on a rookie deal and pretty much in a good situation, just got paid and in a good situation, or have just got to a new team and need to prove themselves, and the rest are just kind of unproven guys. It's really just Devontae. So do you see Devontae getting a trade call then if they don't go get a Tom Brady and they just get rid of his guy Derek Carr? I don't see him liking that very much if they do choose McDaniel over Carr. This could have a lasting effect right here. The organization's in shambles right now.
There's a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer because I completely agree with you. If they start over, Adams is going to want out, and rightfully so. He didn't sign up for that. So I think that's going to be the big question to follow. Let's go ahead and transition into the trades that kind of went down, and we can talk about the one that happened between our team. You know, I didn't want to see us trade Ridley, but I knew it was going to happen. I think that the deal they did was interesting. I've actually never really seen a deal like that before. I get it. It makes sense. It's kind of more fair to you guys. They're pretty much giving you guys an out. They're pretty much saying like, here, try Ridley out. If it works out, then we get compensated. If it doesn't, then we really don't get shit, but like a 5th round pick or whatever it was. So I didn't really like it from that sense. I think you guys got the better end of the deal. I'm just now going to be sitting here on my knees praying that you guys re-sign him so that we can get a better draft pick out of it.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm hoping we re-sign him too because we need him in reality. I feel like he's kind of the number one on the outside we're going to have. I don't know how big of a number one he is compared to the like number ones in the league, but I think he's probably a mid-tier, lower end one. But that's a lot better than what we have right now. Yeah. So I think he's actually going to open up the offense a ton. Completely understand the deal from our side. Again, I looked at who's going to be available. It's not a ton out there, and we needed a veteran presence. And I like the deal we made too, and I like doing it now because I think the one thing you can criticize your Falcons about is you probably could have got more for them if you'd have just waited till the offseason because of the lack of assets available. Somebody like the Packers, if they're trying to go into Rodgers, somebody else, they might have thrown a one at you then. So I do like that we gave it up earlier before he got reinstated and stuff. And now it's like, okay, if we re-sign him, it's a 2. It could be a 3. I feel like we're going to re-sign him. I personally believe that. I think we're going to need him. But I like the deal from our end because we need the veteran guy. We need the number one upside that he brings, and we need a guy that can really just get open on any coverage out there and give Trevor a safety guy out there that he can throw on hots. From your end, like I said, I understand where it's coming from. What that kind of signaled to me was that you traded him now instead of holding on to him. I think that had to do more with getting the 11 mil off
That's
and
what it was.
being able to be big buyers that first day of free agency
That's
and
exactly
going
what
to
it
the
was.
combine and knowing you have that 11 mil in your pocket instead of really stressing to work the deal out because he's going to get reinstated right before the free agency push hits. You want to have that 11 mil off the books so you could be big time free agent players. That was my read on why you did that, even though you probably could have got the first if you held on. I like where that's going. I think you're going to have a big offseason with free agency.
Yeah, they didn't want to have to worry that we can't go out and sign someone big or sign multiple people because we have to wait to get those 11 million off the book. So look, like again, I wanted us to try it out with everyone, but I knew once the whole thing went down, he wasn't going to be a Falcon anymore. And if he was going to go somewhere, at least let him go to one of my really good friends' teams, like and it's an AFC team. So I'll be cheering for him. I love Ridley. The irony in all of this, obviously, is that the game Ridley bet on was for the Falcons to beat the Jags, which makes it's just full circle there. But no doubt about it, your quarterback is getting a very good safety net because that guy's got hands and he can play. So it's definitely a win for you guys. It's okay for us. It's nothing special. I personally don't think we were going to be able to get a first for him at all. So if it does become a second, I'll be happy with it. Just kind of sucks that it's a wait and see type thing.
And I'm also kind of happy for Ridley too. He seems happy to be back in Florida, which I
Yeah, he
mean,
is.
when I was staying in Maine, I was definitely a little homesick myself.
Yeah,
Being from North Carolina, wanted to come back and did obviously, so I can understand the feeling that even though he's from like South Florida, even just being back in your home state, you kind of get the feeling, the bubbly feeling about it. And plus, he's not dealing with having a ransom on him or whatever the random scheme was going on with him, Mariah Carey, and all the other people with the hackers and everything.
yeah.
So I'm kind of glad his mental health's getting cleared out. He could get a fresh start. That's good for him as well. I know me and you talked about that a lot last season when he was playing a little down to his standards. It's like something's going on, and
Yeah,
obviously something was.
no doubt.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
you
let's
want to
move
move
on
on
to
to
some other
Rodgers?
trades that happened here. I think that really there's you look along. Obviously, the biggest trade of everything was McCaffrey, but that happened earlier. We kind of already dissect that. It's a huge trade. You saw what the trade was in that one game against Los Angeles. Like literally, that is why they traded for him. That's a huge win. I think Nyheim Hines to the Bills is a great move for the Bills because he's going to do what they wanted Zach Moss and James Cook to do. James Cook just wasn't ready for that level yet, and Zach Moss just isn't as good. So, I mean, Josh Allen, even though he doesn't do this a lot because he scrambles himself, if he wants to use Hines in the dump off, he's going to have him all day long. So, like, that's going to be a great move for them, and to be able to do that, I think the Jets did a good move by getting James Robinson once Breece Hall went down. You saw he had an impact in that game against the Bills last week. I think that was a good move. The biggest, obviously, what the hell are you doing is the Packers. That to me is because we're just talking about the trade and we can bring into the Packers here. The fact that they didn't trade for anybody is kind of organizational malpractice, man. And maybe it's Brian Goot sitting there saying, man, even if we traded for somebody, we suck. Maybe that is it. And if that's it, then all power to you. Maybe he's looking around saying our quarterback's just not very good right now. And listen, Packers fans, you can say all you want about Rodgers not having help, and that's true. A couple of those interceptions were perfectly drawn up plays against the Lions, and Rodgers could not throw the right football. Rodgers has fallen off big time. This is not just a Devontae Adams issue. You don't drop off this much from one wide receiver in the NFL. It does not happen. This is a much bigger issue, and Rodgers is at the crux of it. So maybe the Packers were saying it's not worth it. I love what the Bears did because Justin Fields looks like a superstar. He is so fun to watch. Sean, he might be one of the most fun players to watch in the league over these last 3 games. He is on fire, and he's like a big Mike Vick out there. with the way he runs. It's must-watch TV. I love watching Justin Fields, so I love the Chase Claypool for the future and for some this year. And then I think that the most impactful trade, and then I'll let you have the floor, the most impactful trade is going to be Hawkinson to the Vikings. I think that will impact-wise will be the most impactful because they're going to use him really well. That's my thought across the board, other than McCaffrey, obviously. McCaffrey's obviously the most impactful, but the second is Hawkinson, in my opinion. That's my thoughts across the board on the trade deadline.
Yeah, for this year, outside of McCaffrey, it's Hawkinson for sure. I think Ridley's going to have a big impact next year, like we were talking about, because I think he's going to be the true number one there. McCaffrey's the guy in San Francisco. Him and Debo is going to be a problem. I can't wait to see them two together when they start running packages with both of them on the field. That's going to be fun to watch. But the Hawkinson deal, man, they needed another target, especially big time, and he's better than Irv Smith Jr. to me as well. They needed a big time target over the middle to start freeing Justin Jefferson up a little more down because, man, watching Justin Jefferson this year, I've been seeing like triple team bracket coverage that I haven't seen since like Calvin Johnson, dude. Like, I mean, they're bracketing him.
He's also dropping a lot of balls,
He
which is kind of
is,
disappointing.
But
But
it's
yeah.
like the coverage he's drawing is very strange compared to normal coverage. I mean, that's a big deal to me. So it's going to free him up a little bit. I love the Hawkinson deal, like you said. I actually like the James Robinson deal for both sides because he wasn't going to re-sign with the Jags, so they got a pick out of it. The Jets needed a running back after Brees went down. That worked out beautifully, and somehow now it's unlocked ETN to just be the feature guy for us. So I like that deal for both sides. What you're talking about with Claypool and Justin Fields. Finally, the Bears are using Justin Fields like Lamar, which is what me and you have been saying the whole time. Yeah. I mean, he was throwing for like 150 yards a game, which Lamar does, but Lamar will run for like 120. Now he's throwing for 150 and he's running for 130. Now all of a sudden he's throwing 3 touchdown passes because you don't know if he's running or handing the ball off. So they're wide open. It's smart to use your quarterback with his strengths. And I guess one day the Bears woke up and was like, maybe we should like run the ball a little bit with him. I don't know. Maybe. So I'm glad they like finally woke up and realized that because he has been very fun to watch on that aspect. But the big story, like you said, is the Packers. What are they doing? I know the Packers are the kings of almost trading for people, by the way. Every report comes out immediately. They were right in on that guy. Yeah. I mean, offered the second, but the Bears' second they think is going to be higher. Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't want to throw that extra fourth in there? Like you didn't want to throw something else in there for him? Yeah, the Packers, the kings of almost trades, man. Yeah. Then they're like, they're trying to trade for Waller. What were they offering for Waller? Because I can't see the Raiders holding on to him for a first or a second or anything.
I was thinking that too, man.
Because they said they offered a first in the offseason for Waller and they turned it down, but he's hurt now. You think they're turning a first down now? Yeah. So I don't know, man. Maybe they're just obsessed with Darren Waller or something, but for some reason that trade's almost happened twice now and it hasn't happened. You got to get Rodgers.
And then they said they offered a first for DJ Moore, and I don't believe that, man, because I believe the Panthers would have traded him for a first. They wanted – the rumors were the Ravens offered a second and a fifth. And the Panthers said, Panthers said, we want a first. I believe if the Packers really offered a first, I think that they just float this crap out there just so it looks like, don't kill us. We tried. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really believe the Panthers would have traded more if they actually got a first.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And even if you're willing to throw the first, throw a fourth or a fifth with it. I don't understand why the Packers are hoarding draft picks. They're starting 7 first-round picks on defense. And their 8th can't get on the field, dude. Wyatt can't get on the field, bro. And he's their 8th first. And their defense is bad. Explain that.
Terrible.
Yeah. Explain that one to me. We talked about it a few weeks ago when we talked about the Packers, and I said they need to run the ball more. I mean, it's like nothing can go right. They run the ball, and then Rodgers is getting picked off left and right. They run the ball and they move the ball down the field and score, and the defense gives up 30 points. I don't understand what's going on. It's like watching us, but we're a young team. We're supposed to do that. This is the Packers, man. Yeah. Like they're supposed to be competing for Super Bowls. They're like a big time player out here. So Rodgers is going to have to turn his shit around. I don't know what's going on with him. Everybody's going with the wash thing. I don't want to go with that far yet. I want to see the rest of the season play out next year because I do want to see what they do in the off season with him. He's going to be an interesting guy again, man. Are they going to keep him? What are they going to do with Jordan Love?
Well, so that's my question. I want to ask you this. Dude, if they lose, which they're probably going to lose to the to the Cowboys. If they lose 2 more here in the next 3 weeks, do they start Jordan Love to see what the hell they have? Or maybe start him and he does well and you can trade him? Like, they've got to get, if they keep losing, they have to get him on the field, right?
Well, at this point, it's like massaging Rodgers' ego. Is he going to stand for that? Is he going to be okay with being benched for Jordan Love? Because, that's the thing about it. At the same time, Rodgers is so condescending, he's blaming everyone else. He might love for Jordan Love to go out there and look horrible. Like, he might be like, yeah, you think I'm bad? Look at this guy throwing for 70 yards the whole game.
Yeah.
Like,
it's crazy, man.
It's
crazy.
A very tense situation in Green Bay right now, and they owe Rodgers like $50 million next year.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to figure something out and get him someone to go there because you're not going to sit there and let his last 2 years and you pay all this money for him to not have a competing team. And right now they're nowhere close. And I think it's funny that LaFleur keeps laughing off firing the D coordinator. Really? Why? He's terrible, obviously.
I noticed that too.
So that's so strange to me as well. How many first-round picks on defense can you have? It's about like saying we have the highest paid defense and we give up points all the time. Yeah. It makes no sense, but we're going to cut a lot of them next year. But at the same time, Packers, man, 7 first-rounders, and y'all still can't stop anybody. It makes no sense to me.
And they were projected to be a very good defense, and
Gary's hurt. Gary's out for the year.
Yeah, which is terrible. It says, it's really, really bad. Everything keeps going wrong. But that is a situation we have to follow, Sean, because you can't let Jordan Love just sit there if you have no shot to make the playoffs. You got to figure out what you have in him, and you got to let other teams see him. But like you said, it's a great question. Will Rodgers allow that? Will Rodgers be okay with that? There's so many things. And before we move on to college football, let's also just hit on Brady, because you brought this up, and the more I thought about it, you have a good point. I just want to bring this up about Brady here, man, because you brought up about washed, and if Brady is washed, at least he has a good excuse. He's so damn old at this point, football years. Like, maybe it is. But you know what's weird to me about the Bucs, Sean? And I can't understand this. Him and Mike Evans are so off. Like, they're off on their timing. Mike Evans is dropping balls. That should not be happening, man. And that makes me wonder if this is just a mental thing for Brady, and he is just not mentally there. I also asked the question, and this is fully Brady's fault. If Bruce Arians was still the head coach, would this look a little bit better, man? Because I don't know if things are fully right with the offense right now in terms of the game plan. I just don't think Brady is putting his point on the playbook, because I think he has so much going on outside that he's not spending time. The way you watch him and Mike Evans and how different it is this year compared to years in the past, it makes me think it's a mental thing. It really does. It makes me think that Brady's not around enough. It's a mental thing to more of than Brady sucks out of nowhere now. I know he's going downhill a little bit, but I am more reluctant, and this might sound crazy, to say that Brady is washed than I am to say Raw. I would be more willing to stand up here today and say that I think Rodgers is washed compared to Brady. Like, I would rather say Rodgers over Brady still at this point. Maybe that's just me still having confidence in Brady for what he is, and maybe that's wrong. But from what I've seen, I think it's more of just what's going on in Brady's life right now to me. What are your thoughts on Brady?
I think Brady's distracted, like you just said. I think that's his biggest issue, because if you watch Brady over the years, what does everybody talk about? His preparation, how hard he practices, what he does. His timing's off. That's what it is. His timing's off. He's always throwing an accurate ball. If you always watch how teams beat him in New England, it's by pressing the receiver so hard that the timing gets thrown, or rushing him up the middle that he has to make that step and the timing of the route is off. He's a timing quarterback. That's what he has been, and he's been the best at it. He's the GOAT for that reason. But that's what it is. That's why him and Mike Evans are off so bad. Their timing's not right.
Yeah.
And it's because I fully believe it's because he hasn't thrown to him as much as he has in the past. It's just that they haven't gotten used to this new offense that him and Leftwich have cooked up, and Brady hasn't had the time to really get in there and do things like that. Also, the O line being hurt, I can't understate that enough. The O line is the O line's bad.
I mean, dude, they can't run the ball at all. Like you might as well not even try and play run defense against them because they can't. They literally can't run it.
By the way, that was the one other one in the offseason that I was thinking about when I wrote down all those receivers. Mike Evans is the only other one because if Brady leaves, Mike Evans is actually on like the second or third year of his deal, so he could get traded without it being like too big. So he's the only other one that's like out there that I would float for that. But yes, I think it's just a timing issue. I don't necessarily think Rodgers was washed either. I think he's frustrated, and I think he's like trying to make too much happen now, which is unusual for him. Usually, he just doesn't even throw the ball if it's going to be a bad throw. Now he's kind of just throwing picks, which you never see from Rodgers.
Never.
So that's why I think they're both on washed watch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good
I don't
point.
know if they both are. I think Brady's just distracted, and I think Rodgers is just frustrated, and Rodgers can't hold that in. So that's where we're at on those two older guys. I'm really curious. I'm telling you, dude, I think Brady might go to Las Vegas or the Niners if he has a chance. And if he doesn't, I think he's going to retire. Like, I don't see him being with the Bucs another year.
Well, that's fascinating. And that right there would keep McDaniel's job. Because if McDaniels
could Devontae there too.
Yeah, exactly. Because McDaniels could say, hey, listen, give me another chance. We'll bring in Brady. Devontae stays. Watch, Carr's the issue. That will be able to keep his job there. So that's a good point.
Where would Carr go? Give me the first team that comes to mind.
Well, maybe he goes to Tampa because they need it.
Mine was the Jets.
Oh, wow. That would be interesting. So they're going to give up on Zach? But, dude, if they go to the playoffs with Zach as their quarterback, even if it's ugly for Zach, I don't know if they'll give up on Zach.
Yeah, we went to the AFC Championship game with Bortles and then extended him. So, I mean, we could have drafted Lamar, and I don't know. It'd be a lot different nowadays. Like, Ramsey would probably still be on the team, is all I can tell you.
Well, I'll tell you this, and you know you're so right that what's fascinating about your point about him going to the Jets, that Jets defense is so legit. If they don't make the playoffs because of Zach Wilson, oh my God, New York is going to have pitchforks out for him, dude. New York will have he's got to get him to the playoffs with how good that defense is. If that doesn't happen, it's a great point. That's something
it's not just defense, it's run game too. The receivers he doesn't even throw to Elijah at all.
Yeah, that's a weird story, man.
He doesn't even throw to Elijah Moore at all, and he's like a really good receiver. I mean, Garrett Wilson's a beast too. Like he was rated exactly where he should have been. They have weapons everywhere. It's just Zach Wilson's kind of holding them back. So, like I said, I could see them going and getting like a Derek Carr type to think that'll put them over the hump, and it could really because that defense, that run game, and they'll have their O-line pieces back. That's a solid team going into next year. You just have a question at the you can't have a question at.
Yeah, and real quick before we move on, I just have to get this jab in. Is there a team in all of sports right now that is in a worse position for their future than the New Orleans Saints? I'm serious, man.
You really want me to hit you with the Lakers right quick? But
no. You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's rephrase it. Let's rephrase it. In the NFL, is there a team in the NFL that is in a worse spot for their future than the New Orleans Saints?
The thing is, dude, Demario Davis is sneaky old. I didn't realize he was 34. So, like, I knew Cam Jordan was old, but, like, Demario is too. Once those two are gone, that defense is falling apart, dude.
Mike Thomas can't stay on the field.
Mike Thomas is probably gone. I don't see him getting paid.
No.
Like, he's going to have to go somewhere else and prove he can be healthy. They have Olave. Olave is good, man. Olave is really good.
He's great.
Kamara's probably getting suspended, and he's going to be 28.
Yep.
I mean,
they don't have picks. I mean, dude, they're going to have maybe a top 10 pick, and they're not going to get to use it.
Same with the Rams.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's
I like the jab, though. The Saints are in one of the worst spots you can be in, impossible, which is not having a quarterback and not having a way to get one.
Yeah, that's a great – not having a way to get one is big. And I told you guys, man, Dennis Allen, like – the things that we heard when he was the coach of the Raiders was so bad. I don't know how someone could have thought that he could be good. All right, let's move on to anything else you want to move on to college.
No, let's hit college right
Dude,
now. That's been tough
college
to
is
call.
fascinating right now, okay? What happened last weekend, Sean, is I mean, TCU fans made them so happy because with Clemson and Alabama falling, it has opened the chance for true chaos. It has. Now, it also has opened the chance for Tennessee to be able to still stay in the playoff, even with a loss. It all comes down to, do we believe TCU can run the table? I personally don't. I think even if they somehow get by this Saturday at Texas, which I don't think they're going to, but if they do, I think they'll lose to Baylor next week because they're at Baylor. Baylor's a very good team as well. If they do, though, and they've shown us they can keep winning, so they'll be in if they run the table. The Pac-12 was smiling because the Pac-12 now has a great shot to get a team in with having Oregon just dominating and USC up there. And you know what's wild to me, Sean? How much higher they have USC compared to UCLA when USC has beaten nobody and UCLA is beating Utah, who beat USC. Yet USC is still like 4 or 5 spots ahead of UCLA. That to me is wild. So they clearly like USC more, brand, whatever it is. All in all, what this shows is Georgia's clearly in. They are the best team, no doubt. Does this open up the door for a one-loss Big Ten team like a Michigan if they lose close to Ohio State? I personally think no, because I think Michigan's schedule was so atrocious that the committee will dock them on that. If Michigan had a harder schedule, maybe they could get in with one loss. I think their one loss was so bad. I mean, their schedule was so bad that if they have one loss, they're out. So my big overall point on this is Clemson and Bama losing has set up a chance for us to have some really fun discussions. LSU could still be in it. What are your thoughts on the playoff real quick while I close my door?
Yeah, I think TCU definitely had to be in. That's for sure. They deserve it so far. I don't know if they go undefeated either. Texas could be tough this week.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough to run the table, especially if Johnson's not healthy. He's such a big part of that offense. So I'm hoping he comes back and plays. The Big Ten, they're a joke to me, and it disgusts me to even think that they might get 2 teams in because they don't deserve it. Let's be
No.
honest. The loser of that game between Ohio State and Michigan should not get in. But the way chaos is happening, they can. Especially if it's Michigan that beats Ohio State, they're going to want to put Ohio State in.
Yeah.
Because I do think eye test wise, a lot of people's kind of looking at Georgia like, who can actually beat Georgia? And they think that maybe in a good weather situation, Ohio State might score with them.
It's a good point.
I personally don't believe that at all
Same.
because I'm not a big buyer in Stroud. I think Stroud beats up on a bunch of small time teams. And when you get the heat on him or the conditions aren't perfect, then he starts to really struggle. He gets bailed out by, I mean, Olave and Wilson with Njigba last year. Marvin Harrison Jr. is better than all of them.
Yeah.
And now he still has Egbuka's a first round pick as well. Like he throws to dominant players constantly. Yeah. So that struggles for me with Ohio State and Stroud in general, which we can talk about more in the offseason. But I would dock them for that myself. That's just what I'm watching. Here's where I think it's interesting. Does Tennessee get back in somehow?
I think
Because
so.
I think they have a good shot. They have a good shot as long as they win out because they're not going to make the SEC championship game. Georgia's going to be in that. So they just got to win out and let Georgia keep dominating because these dominoes are going to fall. Here's the thing that worries me. If Oregon wins out, do you think they put them in after they lost to Georgia that bad?
I think they will, man.
You think so?
I do.
Okay. Do you think they put them in at 4 where they have to play Georgia again?
I think that's what they would do.
Because that's going to have a lot of people like, oh, layup game for Georgia. They're just giving it to them.
But what would have to happen is, you're so right, people will totally be saying that, is TCU will have to lose for that to happen. Also, Ohio State would have to beat Michigan. Because I'm not going to lie, I could see what you're saying. You have a very good point here. I could see them maybe putting, if Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Oregon won out, I could see them putting Ohio State in over Oregon. I could totally see that.
Yeah, because they're going to go. They lost to the number 2 team in Michigan in the country. That's their one loss.
Exactly.
Compared to Oregon, who did lose to the number 1 team, but they docked the Pac-12, man. That's just what it is. Even though they have all these teams up there. Here's the
Now, I
thing.
do think this, though, Sean. If USC wins out and
They'll put 'em
beats Oregon, they're in. They're in. Beats Oregon in the Pac-12 title game, they are 1,000% in.
And then I'm sorry to say this, USC, y'all are getting the doors blown off. Yeah, if you thought that Oregon game was
To
bad,
who? To who?
If it's Georgia,
Oh,
Georgia's
Georgia, yes.
dominating them.
I think they can beat Ohio State.
Yeah, for sure. I think they can beat Ohio State. I think they could keep it tight with Tennessee if they play.
Same. But Georgia, you're right.
And they keep it close with Michigan just because they can score. But Georgia would do the same thing they did to Oregon to USC. I just saw USC give up 35 to Cal, man.
Yeah, no, Georgia might put up 80 on them.
and they'd at least be able to hold Caleb to like 30, 35.
Yeah.
Like,
that
would be a bloodbath. So I don't think USC's winning out, though. I really don't. I think they're going to lose to Oregon or UCLA.
Okay.
And I don't think UCLA is going to crack it. I think UCLA is too far down.
They are too far down.
So I think that's where the Pac-12 might eat each other a little bit. I think really their best shots USC or Oregon. So that's what I'm looking at with that. The ACC's out of it.
Well, I want to ask you that. So you're Xing the ACC. If Clemson and UNC both win out, and it's a 1-1, they both have one loss in the title game. At this point, they'll probably both be in the top 10. I would think if UNC beats Wake and State, going into that title weekend, I would think that they would probably be in the top 10, right?
Yeah,
maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not.
Have to happen ahead of them. Like I think they're putting Oregon, USC, one-loss Big Ten, TCU undefeated, and Tennessee in before UNC. That's a lot of scenarios to go.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're not putting Clemson in at this point. Even if Clemson wins out, they're not doing it.
So bad. If Clemson lost, because Notre Dame's looked better. If Clemson lost by like 3 points at Notre Dame, and then they ran the table and beat up UNC, I would say that they maybe have a shot. But because they looked so bad against Syracuse, and then because they looked so bad against Notre Dame, Clemson has no shot. You're right.
Here's the wild card. If LSU beats Georgia, wins out, they in.
Well, I think they're in. People are mad about this.
If they run the table, even with all the other one-loss teams, everything like that,
I think they're in. And you know what, man? I wouldn't be mad because if you beat Georgia, you deserve to be in. If you beat Alabama and Georgia in one season, I'm okay with you being in. I really am. But you're right. That's the wild card because if that happens, they're still putting Georgia in, right? One-loss Georgia?
Yeah, one-loss Georgia's in, man.
Yeah.
Like, the only lock I can tell you right now is that Georgia's in. Like, barring them somehow getting two of the biggest upsets possible and losing 2 games, if they lose one, they're in. I don't care what you say.
You're right about that. But if I had to guess right now, though, if I had to make a prediction of the teams that would be in, I would say Georgia 1. I think Ohio State ends up beating Michigan. I would put them at 2. And then I would probably say it would go Tennessee 3 and Oregon 4. I think TCU will screw up and lose, and I think that's what the 4 is going to be.
If I had to predict right now, I'm going to go Georgia, Michigan, because I think Michigan beats Ohio State.
Ooh, buddy.
Give me a Tennessee. And then that 4th one's so hard because I do think they're just going to put OSU in for the brand, and that they think that will give Georgia the best one. And I think the Pac-12 is going to beat each other. Like I could see USC losing to UCLA and beating Oregon. Like I could see like a round robin of all that happening. So that's just where I'm at on that. I think they're just going to put Ohio State in because they have them at 2 right now. So they're not going to drop them very far for just losing to Michigan.
Yeah.
I think that's where they get lucky on that. But I'm telling you, I don't buy Michigan like as a national title team. I think they beat Ohio State this year, though. I think Ohio State's defense can't hang. I think Michigan's defense is good enough to disrupt Stroud. And watch that weather. If the weather is bad at Ohio State, Stroud struggles, man. Yeah. He struggles. If you're an NFL team and you really want to take Stroud, you better play in warm weather or a dome. I'm telling you that's how it is so far.
Carolina? Is that warm enough?
That's possible. The Colts, they're going to play in 3 domes in Jacksonville.
And let me tell you, something. Blake Corum is a beast. Right now, real quick.
JD vibes for him. He reminds me of Jones Drew.
Yeah, that's a good comp. I like that a lot. Smaller too. I like that. That's really good. Real quick before we move on to the Auburn job here. Heisman watch. I don't think the books, the Vegas books, man, they have it as a lock for Stroud. which I think is ridiculous because to what you've been saying, Stroud has not been playing great. So I think Drake May should be way higher than he is. I think Drake May is one of the funnest players to watch in the country right now. I think he might be the second best quarterback in the country behind Caleb Williams. And I think you can honestly argue that he's the best. I think Caleb should be a little bit higher. I think Caleb's been awesome. And I still think Hendon Hooker should be in the conversation, yet that game at Georgia was ugly, and I don't think he'll win it because of that. Right now, who are you taking to win the Heisman Trophy?
I think if Michigan upsets Ohio State, I think Corum has a good shot.
Yeah,
I
that'd
actually
be great.
believe that.
I think
If
so.
Ohio State wins out, Stroud's getting it. That's just where it is.
It's happening, yeah.
Yeah, even though I don't think he deserves it either. And I agree with you. I think Drake May is highly underrated. I think if he doesn't get it close, I think he's going to be one of the favorites going next year with Caleb Williams as well.
Yep.
Both of those two are probably going to battle it out for that 1-2 draft pick that next year and the Heisman. They're both so good. Really, I mean, the two best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion.
Yep.
So NFL draft-wise and just quarterback-wise, both of them are. So, yeah, I think Corum has a good shot. He's probably my favorite right now because I do believe Michigan wins. But if Ohio State wins, it's definitely going to be Stroud. I think those two are the favorite. But let's be honest, the Big Ten's just beating up on terrible Big Ten.
It's so bad, man. It's so bad. If I'm Fox, and this is a much bigger conversation, me and Sean love having these type of conversations because we love talking about the networks and stuff. If I'm Fox, man, I want USC and UCLA to get, and I don't even know how much that changes, but I want them to get in here as soon as possible because it's not good, man. The football is not good other than Michigan, Ohio State. But I do just want to highlight this. Sean's predictions really well. And for those out there that like to place these future bets, if you agree with Sean that Michigan's going to beat Ohio State, I would take a flyer on Blake Corum to win the Heisman right now. Because if that happens, his odds might go to first overall. So that is a really good look-ahead spot, Sean. I like that a lot. All right, last thing, and let's get out of here. This has been a long one, but it's been a really, really good one. Yeah, Sean had to turn the lights on. We were going way longer than we thought here.
That and it gets dark early.
It does, man. I hate how early it gets dark, dude. I don't like it at all. Auburn Job. I think Hugh Freeze, other than Lane Kiffin, but I don't think they're going to get Lane Kiffin. Maybe you think so. I don't think they're going to get Lane Kiffin. I think Hugh Freeze is a home run hire, man. What that guy is doing at Liberty is insane. He's on his third string quarterback at Liberty right now, too, and he's still doing it. It's incredible. That, I think, is where Auburn should go, but we all know that's not going to happen because they hired John Cohen, who was the Mississippi State athletic director when all that shit went down with Hugh Freeze. Like, John Cohen was one of the guys that told on Hugh Freeze or whatever. That's the rumors, at least. So we've all heard that they hate each other. So I don't think they have any shot of going after Hugh Freeze because of them hiring John Cohen, which leads me to say, I don't know who Auburn's going to hire, man. I really do not know who they're going to hire to be their next football coach.
Yeah, whoever it is, they're going to be disappointing. That's all I can say. Like, I mean, outside.
Yeah, you're right.
Outside of Vanderbilt, is that the worst job you can have in the SEC?
It kind of is right now, man.
But man, like,
which is why I'm saying Lane Kiffin's not going. Why would he leave?
I don't think so either. He's gonna stay at Ole Miss, in my opinion. Why would he leave Ole Miss for Auburn? Honestly, outside of money, but they're gonna run you out in 2 years if you don't do good. It's a terrible place to coach. Honestly, it's like we're talking about Jim Irsay being meddlesome. That's what it's like. You have a bunch of meddlesome.
It's a good point. It's a great point.
I mean, Auburn, Tennessee is now ascended with Heupel.
Yes.
To the point where I can't talk a bunch of shit about them. And at least Texas kind of has the quarterback and the recruits going, even though Sark's questionable coaching.
Yes, he is.
And I can tell you that USC in the next 2 years is going to be competing with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
That's the three I usually shit on. All of a sudden, it's Florida and Auburn coming through.
Baby. Florida and Auburn. Florida's good. Yeah.
They're both getting those power rankings going to delusional fan base level. I love to see it. Auburn is number one right now for sure. That job is not as appealing as a lot of people think it is.
No.
And I mean, if y'all get this coach right, I'm telling you, I said it to start with. They should go after Urban Meyer.
You did. And at this point, man, that's looking better by the day. That statement is because who the hell else?
Nobody. They're not getting Dion, obviously. Hugh Freeze was the obvious choice. They're not doing that, apparently. and you're not pulling Lane, dude. Like I
Let
don't
me
know.
ask you this one. Do they try and go pull Dan Lanning from Oregon after 1 year?
See, that'd be a home run, but dude, if you're Dan Lanning, why would you leave Oregon? You got rolling.
Exactly. And I've heard that, and I'm thinking Dan Lanning's not going to do that. Why would he
I
do
mean,
that?
his OC might go to Arizona State, but other
Yeah.
than that, Dillingham or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, other than that, Dan Lanning's not leaving. A bunch of people at Auburn think they're just going to be able to pull people. I mean, if you ask some of these Auburn fans, they think they could ask Saban to get over there and he'd take it or something. I
Dude,
don't understand it. I don't understand it.
the way Auburn fans think that Lane is going cracks me up. It's just that's not happening, man. You're right about Arizona State real quick. You're right about that. I think that the is it
It's Kenny Dillingham.
yeah, Dillingham?
Kenny Dillingham.
Kenny Dillingham. I've heard that. I've also heard that that's where Hugh Freeze could go, which would be a home run hire. If Hugh Freeze in the Pac-12, man, to his offense, that would be a lot of fun. And one other sneaky rumor here that I'm hearing is that Bronco Mendenhall might go to Colorado. Listen, Colorado is a terrible program right now. Bronco Mendenhall did some things at Virginia. That actually would be a good hire, man. I think that would be a home run hire if they actually got that. I know nobody cares about Colorado, but that's just the thing out there. The big thing here is I have no clue where Auburn's going.
Yeah, no idea, and even more so, no clue where top 3 overrated fan base and team Nebraska is going either. Nobody knows.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about Nebraska. I have
Yeah,
no clue.
everyone does, but they're fans.
I don't think Matt Rule's getting into coaching anytime soon, man.
You think he's just going to take the money and
I think he's going to take the money and chill for a bit. I don't think he's going to get into coaching right now.
Yeah, because that's been quiet. Like that's who I would have thought Auburn would go after, but that's been real quiet. So you're right. That's something to watch.
And maybe Nebraska can pull away Kansas's coach, but I think Lance Leipold likes where he's at right now. I think that maybe they're hoping I don't know.
I can't wait for Auburn fans to float out Luke Fickell tomorrow. Like
Luke Fickell is not going to get the hell out.
Maybe Ryan Day.
Like, yeah, right. Yeah. Honestly, man, that's where they're at right now. Listen, if Miami fans cared about football, they would be up there in the delusional because, Sean, that's a conversation we have to have. What is happening with Miami? We'll have to have that another day because it is shocking, but they don't care. So since they don't care, Auburn is by far, even if they did care, Auburn would still be by far the number 1 on the delusional rankings. There's no doubt about that.
Auburn out there thinking they're getting Ryan Day or something. They'll be lucky to get Ryan Reynolds, bro.
We will end it on that note right there. Auburn fans, you know where to attack them at Dumpster Fire Fan on Twitter. Go after them and let them know what you have to say about that. You can follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Money Down Pod. We'll be back to break down everything next week, early in the week, as we have a weekend full of football. We might be able to get together tomorrow for a pick show. I don't know. I haven't talked to Sean about it, but we can see where we're at with it. If not, we'll definitely be back early next week to break everything down. Anything you want to add before we get on out of here?
I should be good if we're doing early afternoon. I'll be good for picks tomorrow. Then we'll get them rolling. And
all right,
come see me in the comment section. Come
yeah,
see
there
me
you go. Let him have it, man. Let's hear your thoughts on it. Maybe you might have a better coaching hire than us, in our opinion, there. But you know where to find him at Dumpster Fire Fan. We will talk to you later. Like, subscribe to the video, please. It helps us out a bunch. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Go Falcons tonight, baby.